Christmas celebrations in the UK are never complete without the annual message from the monarch. King Charles has now spent more than a year on the throne, so has it been a success? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, Britain is famous for a lot of things: fish and chips, the birthplace of football, and the British Monarchy. Following the monumental change of King Charles taking over after the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, what has his ascendancy meant for the British royal family?
This is the first time in 70 years that a British king has waved from the balcony at Buckingham Palace. He's been preparing for this position since he was born.
I don't know really, I think probably okay. I mean, he's not a sort of extravagant character, so I think you'd want him to be himself really.
A year on, King Charles, broadly speaking, is popular, with 62% of people in favour of keeping the monarchy. There is a generational divide, however, with only 37% of 18 to 24-year-olds in favour of the royal institution. The coronation in May was the biggest moment for the monarch, when he was officially crowned king. In November, he delivered his first King's Speech, a tradition when the monarch reads out the government's priorities for the year ahead. This included an increase in fossil fuel production.
This bill will support the future licensing of new oil and gas fields, helping the country to transition to net zero by 2050 without adding undue burdens on households.
This may have been a difficult announcement for Charles, who actively campaigned for environmental issues before becoming king. But the most controversy came from within his own family. His son, Prince Harry, wrote a critical autobiography which highlighted their fractured relationship. And Charles's brother Andrew, who had links to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, is rumoured to want more of a role in public life. So what will the year ahead hold for King Charles and the future of the royal family?
Well, let's meet our guests. In Cheshire, in the UK, is Paul Burrell, former personal attendant to the Queen of England and former butler to the Prince and Princess of Wales. In London is Afua Hagan, journalist and broadcaster. And here with me in the studio is the royal editor, Sarah Hewson. Sarah, I'll come to you first. Great to see you on Roundtable. Tell me, what kind of a year has Charles had, his first full year as monarch?
Yeah, as you say, his first full year as monarch. And overall, I think Buckingham Palace will reflect on this as a successful year for the king. There have been state visits to Germany, to France, to Kenya. He has received the South African president, the South Korean president here. He has travelled to the COP summit in Dubai, something that he wasn't able to do last year. And I think we can see him as a stabilising monarch. There were questions about what kind of king Charles would be. And we have to think about this as effectively he's a transitional monarch. He is 75 years old now, and his job is to stabilise the monarchy after the loss of Queen Elizabeth II and a lot of uncertainty about what this would mean for the UK and the other countries of which he is head of state. He's a stabilising monarch, and there have been highs and there have been lows. And most of those lows, I'm sure we will discuss, have come from the family drama.
We'll come to that. Afua, marks out of 10 for Charles's first year. How do you think he has scored?
Oh, a good question. I would give him a firm 7.5. I think it's been a great opening act from him. Like Sarah so rightly said, he is a transitional king, and he's a king that we needed to kind of settle the waters, not just after the death of Queen Elizabeth II, but when the UK has had a real time of political uncertainty as well, when we've had literally a revolving door in Downing Street. The United Kingdom felt very unsettled. And then we had the death of Queen Elizabeth II. So we needed a period of calm, and that's absolutely what King Charles III has brought. And, you know, he has embarked on some projects as well, as even though he's trying to remain apolitical, you know, on his 75th birthday, He did launch his food waste project, which was about making sure that food wasn't wasted and it got to people that really need it, especially in this cost of living crisis, something that he referred to in his first ever King's speech that he gave out on Christmas Day in 2022. He talked about the cost of living crisis. He's always been passionate about sustainability and food waste, and launching that project on his 75th birthday was seen as him really putting his mark, on his period of ruling, but also on his legacy. And I think that was something that's really, really important. Yes, he has been sometimes overtaken by family dramas, which I'm sure we are going to get to. And I think him appearing at COP28 was very, very important and very significant for him as well, something that he has done in the past, wasn't able to do in the previous year. And now he is back, and back at a really critical time, actually, when it seemed that we really need to do something about climate change and really need to up our thoughts in sustainability. And when he has his son, Prince William, doing that with the Earthshot Prize, he really needed to sort of step up in that as well. So yes, I think I would give him a really firm 7.5 out of 10.
Paul, Charles, you spent a long time around the royal family. What's your reading of his first full year?
Oh my goodness, Afua is on fire. She just said it for me, really. I think the king has had a very good year this year. I haven't always seen eye to eye with him because it's history that I'm so far involved with Princess Diana that I wasn't involved with the king. So I think the king is a steady hand on the tiller. You're right in saying he's a transitional king. He's a caretaker king. He's looking after the shop until William comes of age. Really, what he's waiting for is for William's family to grow until that William can dedicate more time to being monarch. And he's just keeping everything on a steady, even path. And I think he's doing a very good job. I'd give him 8 out of 10 for having a very successful year this year for all the reasons you point out, and for not really putting a foot wrong. But then he has the steady hand of Queen Camilla beside him. Again, I haven't always been a fan, but she's doing a great job in stabilizing him, in calming him in certain situations. And she will be always there beside him in the wings to guide him. I think it's a perfect combination. I'm a monarchist. I want to cross the bridge with King Charles and Queen Camilla because I want to get to King William and Queen Catherine.
Paul, we see what the public sees, what the cameras see. You were there behind closed doors. You know these people. You've spent a long, long time around them. What's Charles like? Give us an insight into what he's like as a man.
In my time with him, it wasn't always easy. He has quite a temper, and sometimes he would blow his top, and I wouldn't know how to deal with it. But then that's the pressure of being Prince of Wales in my day. Now he's king, he's got to calm down, because Diana once famously said that when or if he got the top job, he would find the limitations. And I think that's what this monarchy is about, the limitations of his role as king. As Prince of Wales, he could have a finger in every pie. As king, he can't, because he has to be our monarch and our head of state first, and then his personal preferences come third. So he's precise, he's very careful, he's very considerate, a very spiritual man. I remember when Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, died, he cried and said, "I don't know what I'm going to do without her." And I think his foot is in tradition. He's watched his mother's reign all his life, and he's trying to do justice to her reign as well as bring it forward into this century. And as Afua said, the tectonic plates shifted when our late Queen died, and everything was in turmoil. The monarchy, the government, the country, we had an economic turndown. all of that the king has to take into consideration. It's not an easy job to step into the shoes of a queen who has served us for 70 years and done an incredible job. She was the beating heart of our nation. I don't think the king can ever realize the same ambition in his monarchy, but he is a steady hand on the tiller.
Thanks, Paul. Sarah, no review of the royal year would be complete without two people who aren't really part of the family anymore, Harry and Meghan. What's your take on their input this year?
Well, look, the year started with the publication of Spare, Harry's book, in which he laid bare the divisions within the royal family, the divide particularly between him and his brother, Prince William. It has been difficult. It has come to an end with the publication of another book, Endgame, around Harry and Meghan's own difficulties within the royal family. Overall, the king has maintained a dignified silence on this, while always reflecting his love for his son and daughter-in-law in California. We had Prince Harry returning for the coronation on his own, a fleeting visit. There hasn't been that face-to-face contact with his father. We know that there was a telephone call around the time of the King's 75th birthday. Is that the start of the thawing of relations? Well, I guess that depends whether there are any more truth bombs coming across the Atlantic. The publication of Omid Scobie's book certainly complicates that process of healing. I think the King and Harry, there may be the potential to heal that relationship. It's a very different picture between Harry and Prince William.
Afua, just on that point, Harry and William, looking ahead to 2024, can you see any sort of an olive branch here?
It's difficult to see how that would happen because of the revelations that we had in Spare and the expansion, if you will, of those revelations in Endgame by Omid Scobie. I think that the relationship between the two brothers is probably at the worst point it's ever been. It's at rock bottom, and where we have seen a slight defrosting in relations between King Charles III and Prince Harry, with that phone call on the King's 75th birthday, and with videos of the grandchildren being sent saying happy birthday to him. We have heard nothing of the relationship between Prince William and Prince Harry, and it seems that they are still not even on speaking terms. I mean, it was laid out in Endgame how Prince Harry was trying to talk to Prince William on the day that Queen Elizabeth II passed away to no avail via text message. So it seems that their relationship is at rock bottom. I don't know who would be the first person to reach out, but in saying that, Prince Harry has said, and he said this on the press run for Spare when he was speaking to interviews and interviewers in interviews, he said that he wants his brother back, that he wants his father back. And he's thought to have said, you know, who wants an apology at this point? Let's just forget about it and move on. So it'd be hard to know who would reach out with that olive branch. I think the potential is there, but I don't think it's something that we will see anytime soon, unfortunately.
Paul, you were so close to Diana for many, many years. What's your reading of the fallout between William and Harry? I mean, this would have broken any mother's heart, wouldn't it?
I think this fallout, Afua is right, is at its worst it's ever been. Diana will be devastated because she thought that Harry's job was to support his brother on his way to being king, and whilst he was king, he was to be William's wingman. That's never going to be now. But you see, the problem I have with all of this is the fact that Harry knew the rules of the game. He knew exactly what he should be doing and what he shouldn't be doing, but he chose to do something else. And whilst these leaks have been coming from California to undermine the royal family and literally pull the rug from underneath the feet of some members of the royal family, it's hurt them. It's hurt them terribly. And I'm not sure how this can be fixed, because what's said has been said. And it continues to be said. These leaks come out from the Sussex camp via Scobie and the book, and through everything else they've done over the year. The royal family really are perplexed as to what he is thinking and what they are doing, because he was taught very differently by his mother and by his grandmother. And incidentally, when his grandmother watched Oprah, or parts of it, she couldn't believe it. And that led to the famous statement, of course, our recollections may vary.
Thanks, Paul. Sarah, is Prince Andrew the unwitting winner when the headlines are relentlessly about the Sussexes?
Well, it's interesting because we've had much discussion this year about how the king deals with the royal family. Before he became king, we were talking about a slimmed-down monarchy. Well, actually, he hasn't had to do anything in order to achieve that, because the departure of Harry and Meghan and Prince Andrew at stage left has meant that the royal family has naturally slimmed down. We're down to the core of these working members of the royal family. And we talked a lot about whether Prince Andrew was going to get kicked out of Royal Lodge, his big, sprawling mansion on the Windsor estate. That hasn't happened yet. Was he going to be moving to the smaller Frogmore Cottage, which has been vacated by Harry and Meghan? It hasn't happened. And we did see him in the garter robes at the coronation. He will be at Sandringham for Christmas. Part of the family, but not part of the public-facing family when it comes to those public engagements. We're not going to see him as a working member of the royal family, but he is the brother of the king.
What's the relationship like, do you think, between Charles and Andrew now?
As his brother, I think Charles wants to see that he is looked after, that he is okay. I think he is conscious about his brother's well-being, and he loves his brother still. But he does not want to see him return. And Prince William is absolutely adamant about that. There is no place on the public stage for his uncle, the Duke of York.
And just tell me, the Commonwealth, how big an issue is this that you've got countries now who are looking at whether or not they want to have Charles?
Yeah, when we're talking about the Commonwealth, 56 member countries of the Commonwealth, 15 of those, including the United Kingdom, have the monarch as head of state. And it is among those Commonwealth realms that we're starting to see questions being asked. Countries like Jamaica, Belize, Antigua and Barbuda, for example, all talking about potential referendums to have an elected head of state. We've seen the king go out to visit his first Commonwealth country as monarch when he undertook the state visit to Kenya. There were some difficult conversations to be had there about Britain's colonial past, and he did express his sincere regret for the harms that had been done. Will he get out to visit a Commonwealth realm? Will he go to Australia? Well, we know for many, many, many years now questions have been asked about their relationship with the royal family. That is on the cards for 2024. And I think we're going to see over the next couple of years this big fanning out of members of the royal family around the globe, particularly within the Commonwealth, to exercise that soft power.
Afua, tell me your take on the Commonwealth countries who are looking at replacing Charles. I mean, do you think that will be the dominant theme in 2024?
Absolutely. I think we're going to see many more countries, apart from Jamaica, Belize, deciding that they don't want to have the king or to have the royal family as their head of state. Now, I think we'll see that more amongst the 14 Commonwealth realms, as that were, because I think a lot of countries felt that at the end of the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, because they had this affinity for her, upon her death was a good time to look at the links they had with frankly, their former slave masters, the former country that colonized them. And I think they felt that this was a good time to rethink those relationships. I think in the past few years, a lot of things have changed, not just the death of Queen Elizabeth II, but a real awakening of the consciousness and Black consciousness. And, you know, there's been the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. There's been the death of George Floyd. There's been a lot of things and situations where countries are able to look more inward and say to themselves, well, what are we benefiting by having the king as head of state, by being quote unquote ruled by the royal family? So there will be a lot of countries who are now thinking, actually, we don't want to be part of this. We don't need to be part of the realms of the Commonwealth. And yes, it will be a long process. For Jamaica, for instance, they have to have a referendum on it, put it to the people. It could take a couple of years to do it, but countries are determined to do it. And I think we will see it beyond Caribbean countries. Australia, New Zealand, potentially Canada as well, looking at quote unquote striking out on their own. Now, when it comes to the wider Commonwealth, so the wider 56 countries that kind of have the trade and you know, friendship agreements with the United Kingdom, which some people have described as Empire Light or Empire 2.0, we have seen in the past couple of years countries actually wanting to join, like Rwanda, like Gabon, that see it as beneficial. But there is a saying that the wealth in the Commonwealth is not common and it's not spread amongst everyone. And actually, the Commonwealth, how is it beneficial? If you look at countries like Ghana, where my heritage is from, a country that was previously part of the British Empire, that gained independence, but is still part of the Commonwealth. But when you look at how difficult it is for people to move between the two countries, visa restrictions, for instance, if we are supposed to be friends and have trade agreements, why is there such stringent visa restrictions between Ghana and the UK, between Nigeria and the UK? Like I said, the wealth in the Commonwealth is not common. So we are definitely going to see countries within the 14 realms, and I think in the wider 56 countries of the Commonwealth, rethinking their relationships. How does it fit with the population we have now? How does it look as we look towards our global future? How does it look where we have billions of people, 1.5 billion people in the Commonwealth countries, 60% of which are under the age of 29? How relevant is the royal family and the monarchy to them? And I think we're going to see countries really looking at those figures and looking at what their people want and how they move forward in this, in globalization, in the world. How does the royal family fit in with modernization?
Thanks, Afua. Paul, I have to ask you, The Crown on Netflix, have you watched it?
I have watched it. I found it very upsetting. Of course, we have to remember that this is a dramatization. It is not a documentary. And how many times do I have to say to people, you're not seeing the real facts. You're not seeing actually what happened behind closed doors. This is the director's view of what he wants to project. So really, I'm at a conflict here with reality, which I witnessed, and what the fantasy which is being projected. And in between that is the fact that some people are believing what they're seeing and believing that these characters who are portrayed by actors are the real people. Is a big problem in this, because under 20-year-olds may think that this is how it was and this is history. So Peter Morgan gets to rewrite history. How many times have I seen Princess Diana misrepresented, misinterpreted, and misunderstood? All her lifetime she was, and here we go again through the lens of The Crown. The same thing is happening.
Paul,
and
how did you feel?
Propaganda.
How did you feel when you first saw Elizabeth Debicki, the Australian actress, as Diana? I mean, it is uncanny resemblance.
Wow, what a portrayal from her! My goodness, she must have studied Diana very closely, because even I was convinced. A brilliant portrayal, but the sentiments and the feeling behind it, Diana was not a victim. She was a fighter. She loved being a princess. She loved being part of the royal family. And my biggest grief with The Crown is the fact that Imelda Staunton, as great an actress as she is, she's only reading the script that Peter Morgan's written. The Queen was not hard and cold and unfeeling. And Imelda Staunton's portrayal of the Queen is a very hard woman. That was not the Queen that I knew.
Sarah, I know you watched The Crown because we're friends and we talk about it. Is there a feeling that it's almost a PR tool on behalf of the House of Windsor, that, you know, more young people are actually getting into following royal matters because of the Netflix show?
Well, look, they have a problem with connecting with the younger generation. And when you look at sentiments around the monarchy and calls for a republic in this country, while we still have a majority that support having a monarchy in this country overall, that shifts when you look at the 18 to 24 bracket. So there are big efforts being made to try and connect with and reach out to that generation. Is the Crown the right vehicle to do that? No, because as Paul has pointed out, what is being portrayed here isn't necessarily what the royal family would want to be portrayed. We're talking about a period in history that was extraordinarily difficult for the royal family, and we're also looking at Peter Morgan's version of that. And because Elizabeth Debicki is so brilliant in the role of Diana, it is easy to forget that you are watching a fiction and a dramatisation rather than the real history. There are so many imagined conversations taking place within this. And I do agree with Paul that the portrayal of the Queen is very hard, this sort of pinched woman that doesn't reflect on the Queen, I think, that we knew.
Do you think that series then is the final one, or will they come back again late 2024?
It's an interesting question you asked me this. Afua and I were discussing this very much. Peter Morgan has, this morning, Peter Morgan has said, season 6 and out. We are going to see William and Kate in the early years of their relationship at St Andrews, and then that is it. So they say. I think we'll have to wait and see.
We'll leave it at that. Sarah, Paul and Afua, thank you all so much. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me and Brady and all of the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.